All right, so today we're going to talk about infiltration and runoff. And our focus question is, how do infiltration and runoff impact the water cycle? So you guys saw this picture earlier this week, and it just shows the water cycle and the movement of water being lifted by energy from the sun in the form of evaporation or transpiration, and then coming to the higher in the atmosphere where it cools and then condenses. And once those droplets get big enough, we then have precipitation. And the part that we kind of glossed over, but we're going to focus on now, is what happens after this precipitation occurs. And there's two different things. We can have infiltration and we can have runoff. Runoff is water molecules that have fallen to the earth from precipitation and run down from mountains and hills to the ocean or any other water source. So this water was rained down over land, but instead of being absorbed by the land, it comes down, usually by the force of gravity, and enters into oceans, lakes, rivers, and any other water source. Sometimes this water can actually carry chemicals and cause a lot of problems for those water areas that it enters. And this is because of while the water is moving across the land, it can pick up different things like fertilizer and things like that. So what can happen from runoff with chemicals? So if you look here, you see we have these this runoff, and we have two different things. There's point source contamination, which is a direct contamination, and then there's things that can get kind of put into with water molecules like pesticides and, like we mentioned before, fertilizer. So this picture on the right shows what happens when you have too much fertilizer going into a pond from runoff. And what you see here is all this green, and this green is algae. Algae is a plant source, so it takes this fertilizer and it blooms like crazy. And we call this eutrophication, but you don't need to know that word. But this happens right here over the pond, and or any other water body near it. So when this happens, it kills everything underneath it. So this would not only be considered a source of water pollution, but this can happen due to runoff. Infiltration. So this happens when water from rain, snow, or other forms soaks into the soil. So instead of running across it like in runoff, this is when it soaks into the soil at ground level, and it moves underground and moves between the soil and rocks. So you see it come all the way down here, and they have this area called the zone of saturation where we just have all of this water. Some of the water will be soaked up by plant roots to help them grow, where it can be re-released back into the air through transpiration. The rest of the water continues to move below the soil and becomes groundwater. So once it hits that impermeable area of rock, that's when the water will just stop and sit and become groundwater. Go ahead and move on. You guys are going to be making a poster today. Just use one Google slide, and the guiding questions are in your packet. So just follow along with that and create a poster, and don't forget to share it with your teacher.